Good afternoon, everybody, and special thanks to the folks that got up after the happy hours last night and came to hear the 8:30 presentation this morning. You're truly the go-getters of the conference, and I appreciate the great questions and things we have. It's an honor for me to be here representing the 23,000 or so employees that we have that are 100% focused on the U.S. government. We've participated in all the Gov 2.0 summits, and we've really come a long way from when it was about 3 years ago out in San Francisco at the Web 2.0 conference, where we were barely talking about Enterprise 2.0, and only in one unconference breakout session did we talk about the government. And to have a conference room full of folks looking to improve how we're doing things is really, really awesome. It's what I want to talk about today is it's not a lack of platforms that are out there. This is a good subsection of platforms that are there. They're all doing really cool things. The problem is building the platforms is the easy part. It's getting people to use the platforms and to get them up and running and to drive adoption. Adoption is the key to the success of the platforms that we have. We've built several. We built one internally called hello.bot.com, as well as for a large majority of the federal government, we've worked with them on building platforms to move forward. And what we've come across is those platforms are the easy part, integrating them into what they're doing. What we found in most organizations, they already have 80% of the data they need to be able to share across the organization. The problem is it's in PeopleSoft, or it's in their HR system, it's in SharePoint, or it's in Outlook, and they don't have the information they need, and driving adoption is hard. Standing up a wiki and having it on your desk is awesome for the 4 people that are sharing it. But if it's not included in enterprise search, nobody knows it's there. So what's the value for that as opposed to the 4 people that are getting there? These platforms are going back to the silos of information, or I like to call them the cylinders of excellence. If you build a platform, I hate when a client comes to me and says, Walton, I really want you to help me build a platform so I can share information with these 4 people. Well, that's not really sharing. You've probably got Outlook, that'll work well, or you've got SharePoint and you can collaborate around that document. What we want to focus on is how do we break down those silos? How do we find the people that are in one column that are passionate about water quality that are also across the agency and be able to pull them together to be able to get the right people talking about the right problems at the right time? Your people are your number one asset. I don't care if you're working for the government, if you're one of my competitors, or here to learn more about it. The people you have are the most important asset you have. You've got to do everything you can to give them tools, as Professor McAfee said, that's intuitive, that are easy to use, and are in their work stream. If you give them tools, you've got to remember that Outlook's our number one competitor. When we walk out of here, our inboxes are going to be slammed. And if you've been with the firm or your organization for 5 to 15 years, you probably already got a lot of the connections you need to be successful. The problem is it's a one-to-one email, or it's the 1 to 5,000 saying, does anybody know what we're doing at NavAir? Well, when I get home tonight at 11 and I have 300 emails to go through, if someone says, what are we doing at NavAir? I'm probably not going to respond. But if someone's taken the time and looked and said, Walton, I hear you worked on a project with X last year. Do you think it'll be applicable for what I'm doing? And you see that there's only 2 people on that 2 line, you're about 1,000% more likely to respond to them. So instead of focusing on these, or what's the best wiki, what's the best blog platform, how do I drive adoption to my wiki, or what search tools should I be using? What I want to focus on is what are we trying to accomplish? All those pain pills back there probably would have helped cut the pain for this poor individual, but it's not attacking the solution that they're looking for. Now, I hate to say that a nail in the head is appropriate, but it's pretty appropriate when you think about some of the problems the government's facing today. But how do we take a step back and not look at the tactical response to being able to pull through, but focus on how do we capture that institutional knowledge? The Washington Post said a couple months ago that the federal government's going to have to hire I think it was 200,000 employees in the next 10 years. I've yet to sit down across from an agency and said, do you have the knowledge management system in place that's capturing the explicit knowledge, let alone the tacit knowledge that's within your organization? When Jeff, who runs the travel policy, leaves, who's going to do that? Who had that documented? Who's going to be able to reach out and know who the right lawyer is to call and ask the question so you don't get in trouble before you hit submit on a certain application? Improve the qualities of employees. Our people who are working in the government are doing it for the most part because they're very passionate about what they do. They're doing things, and in many cases, the systems they have on their desk is not as powerful as the phone they have in their pocket. Yet they're still doing a really good job of moving us forward. How about focusing on giving them tools that allows them to pull together and able to capture innovation, to move things forward, get different teams starting to talk about things. It's some of the agencies, whether they're 2,000 or they're VA with 200,000s, there's lots of great ideas out there, but they're broken down back in those cylinders of excellence. How do we work together to break those down, to give them the tools that they need to be able to pull forward? What we found is you've got to capture and cultivate innovation. All too often, people are excited because a lot of the Web 2.0 and E2.0 and Gov 2.0 tools are pretty inexpensive. The problem is they don't spend any time on the change management and the communication strategies that are needed to drive adoption. I'll jump up and down on the table to say change management and adoption are your number one deciding factors. If people are using your tool, you'll be successful. If you have a flexible platform that allows you to continue to innovate and add functionality based on what your constituents are asked for, will help drive that success. You're not the only party in town. Don't try to do it all by yourself. In every agency that I've worked with, I found other like-minded folks that are looking to do something to try to move the ball forward. Work together with them, reach out, share each other's problems. I guarantee if you look to the right and the left of you here, there's people that have faced the same challenges you're facing now. Get on GovLoop, get on the different agencies and ask questions. The great thing about the Gov 2.0 Summit and Expo is people are willing to share what works and what doesn't work. Reach out to them and so you don't have to make the same mistakes twice. Have to have your developers walk the talk. When I sit down with an agency, I'm not going to walk in and recommend them a .NET application if they've got nothing but Java developers. Your agencies need to take ownership of the applications you're doing. They know the different systems where the different information is buried, so you really got to work with them to make sure that you have something that can be integrated. Don't take the social out of social media. Being a consulting firm, 97 years old, we're kind of stuffy in many cases, but when we looked at how do we drive adoption, one of the things that we were trying to address was the overall affinity to the firm. And I don't care if 3 people find each other and they find out they have interest in reading and form a book club. They're building that affinity. They're learning how easy it is to use the platform to share information. So what I like to say is it's Enterprise 2.0. I can't prevent you from being stupid, but everything you do is tied back to you. So the same policies and procedures you have that surround email and phone calls and different things should apply to your Gov 2.0 implementation. Don't reward old practices. Look at ways to break down and use them as teaching opportunities. I gave an example this morning when the firm came to me and said, Walton, we want to improve to cut the number of people who are on the beach or underutilized or not working for a project. And they said, we want to help use your tools to capture the skill sets, the clearance levels, the languages, and all the things that those people that aren't working have. Well, I took a step back and said, well, we've got 23,000 people. Wouldn't it be more important to focus on capturing all the skills, the languages, and the clearances that we have as a firm? So if our client comes to us and said, I need someone who speaks Farsi, who's got a TS clearance, who also understands data integration, that person is probably not available right now. But we can make that decision as a firm to take that person off the project and move them over because it's a better investment for the firm. So really focus on the big picture. What are those things that we can solve that are causing problems? Innovation is hard, reward it in simple ways of patting people on the back or to getting out there and letting people know. Listen to people's ideas, but caring about them is better. I really want to focus on that in order to be successful, you have to be flexible, you have to push forward. But I want to repeat that your people are your most valuable resource. Listen to them. They're trying to do good things with the data and the information they have. If you give them better tools, just think how much more successful they would be. Thank you for the time. We'll be at our booth. If you have any other questions, or you can send me a tweet at Walton3. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.
Thanks, Walton. Appreciate it. Thanks.